Hello Guyana and welcome to the Public Interest. Welcome to the final edition of the Public Interest for the year 2015. It is my pleasure to be here with you again today, and of course, as always with us is the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, His Excellency Brigadier David Granger. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Nigel.
And journalists joining us today are, of course, beginning with a female, Nazima Raghubir. She is the editor of Insight magazine. Most of you also know Nazima from Prime News. Welcome, Nazima.
Thank you, Nigel.
And welcome to Mr. Nigel Williams, the editor-in-chief for the Guyana Chronicle. Welcome, Nigel.
Thank you.
All right. Great to have you both. First of all, Your Excellency, about 2 public interest programs ago, and you've even said it most recently, that you talked about national unity and public infrastructure being very important for Guyana and to Guyana as we go forward, and when it comes to goals being achieved for 2016. But apart from those, obviously 2 very important things, what else does your administration plan to address that could see Guyana being in a better place come December 2016 and even beyond that?
Well, in addition to those objectives, I think we need to emphasize the importance of building public trust. And this has been a great achievement in 2015, that we have measurably restored public trust in Guyana. People can now look to a government, they can look to the city, they can look to what has been done in terms of our commitment to local government, in terms of the function of the National Assembly, in terms of the changes that are taking place in education and health, and feel that this is a trustworthy government. And I believe that it's impossible to really measure the importance of trust, the restoration of trust to Guyana. I think that is our major achievement, and I would like to feel that in 2016 it's going to pay greater dividends, because we will see greater cooperation between the people themselves and their government, especially with the introduction of local government elections and the creation of new municipalities.
Okay, sir. And as you touched on local government elections, even before I open the floor to the other journalists, do you see local government elections, in a sense, the achievement of holding local government elections, getting more trust from the population and more of their support?
Exactly, because it is the heart of democracy. It enables neighborhoods, it enables communities, it enables municipalities to run their own affairs. Look at the difference in the city of Georgetown between what happened when the old administration inflicted a town clerk who operated against the wishes of the councillors. And after the 11th of May, when that town clerk was replaced by someone who was supported by the councillors, the city was transformed because there was greater trust between the municipality and the central government, and between the people and the municipality. Okay. So I think it's very important that we have local government elections, because the people will be putting in office councillors who they selected, not people who were inflicted or imposed on them by some form of interim management committee. These will be elected officials, and the democracy will be reflected in the quality of the environment around us and in the quality of administration.
Okay,
so this Suba example is, I think, typical of what we expect with elected officials after local government elections in March 2016.
All right, okay. Thank you, sir. Now it's turn, our journalist's turn, beginning with you, Nazima.
Mr. President, thank you for having us today. On May 16, you told Guyanese, that I shall be a good president for all of Guyana. After 6 to 7 months in office, 7 to 8 months in office, I don't mean to ask you to grade yourself, but it's going to come down to that. Would you say that you have lived up to that statement, one, and have you led a government down a path that looks at good governance for the change that people were expecting after me?
The answer is yes. I've lived up to that promise. I see my main role as giving direction to the ministries. We have 16 ministries, and I've given them adequate direction in every single sphere. I've personally covered the country so that I am more aware of the problems which affect all of the communities. And it is this information which allows me to give direction to my ministers. For example, on Christmas Day, I was able to go into the maternity ward of the Georgetown Public Hospital. I saw a situation there, and my immediate response was to seek solution. So on the first day of the new week, I went to Leonora. I was looking for space for maternity ward. I went to Diamond. I solved problems. And yes, I don't think of a city, I think of the whole country. During the Christmas period, the month of December, I went to a place like Akawini, I went to Baracara. I went to a lot of communities which are not normally visited to find out what people's needs are. I don't just sit on my hands in Georgetown. I go out and find out what people's needs are so I can come back and discuss with my ministers how those problems could be solved. So that is how I feel. I'm confident that I'm fulfilling that promise I made on the 16th of May to be a president for all Guyana. And all Guyanese are going to see me in every part of the country. I'm not a town boy, I'm a national boy in that sense.
Do you think you've been able to lead a government to bring that change that was so required after May 16th?
Yes, I am better aware of the problems, and I frequently interact with the ministers. For example, when we were aware that the crime problems, the criminal violence problems, which had started around 2000 and had gone through, more or less 15 years of high murder rates, high rates of execution, rates of narco trafficking, I set up something called the National Security Committee. Every single week I meet the Commissioner of Police and we discuss various means of controlling crime. Not only at the superficial level, but looking for the causes of crime and looking to reshape the police mechanism to deal with crime. For example, we strengthened the CID. We're ensuring that there are now mounted police in the Rupununi because that was a zone which was being infiltrated by foreigners. So I am able to respond to situations by engaging with the agencies through the National Security Committee, through frequent interaction with the police, and I'm seeing the effect on the ground. We have not been able to uproot the causes of crime, but that is what we're working on. Not simply, having, what I would call, a lot of arrests, but trying to find out what are causing these crimes and ensuring that in the middle and long term, we put measures in place. And that's one of the reasons when I met Prime Minister David Cameron of the United Kingdom at the United Nations General Assembly and again at the Commonwealth Heads of Government in Malta. I iterated our desire to have the Security Sector Reform Action Plan put back on the table because we cannot do it alone in Guyana. We need to look at the causes of crime, and we are victims of transnational crime. The point I'm making in simple terms is that I'm solving problems, and to that extent, I feel confident that the last 7 months have been able to turn the tide against some of the most serious problems that we have inherited from the previous administration.
Sir, given your recent charge to ministers, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, what is your rationale behind what we've been hearing about a reshuffling and reassigning within your cabinet? It's also very early in your government for that to happen, one would, assume.
Well, for the same reasons that when I see problems, I fix the problems. And there is no real reshuffle. There is the creation of a new ministry for public telecommunications. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that after 7 months, we detected a gap in government policy, that there was no single spokesperson in the National Assembly, a ministerial spokesperson, dealing with digital economy, dealing with information technology. So we decided, although there were different agencies, e-governance and all that, we decided that it was necessary to have a minister responsible for information communication technology. So Mrs. Catherine Hughes is going to do that. So we're not abandoning tourism, but we're creating a ministry which will emphasize the thrust of digital technology. So that is new, but it doesn't mean an increase in the size of the cabinet or a reshuffle. It means she's taking a step towards developing that policy for the government. Similarly, in the case of Mr. Trotman, the title of the ministry that he held was a little awkward, that it was governance and the protection of our natural patrimony. So it has simply been satisfied to natural resources. So those are the two real ministerial or cabinet changes you can talk about, the establishment of a Ministry of Natural Resources and a Ministry of Public Telecommunications.
Would there
so
be
there's no shuffle really.
Would there be any movement of ministers within ministries to fill gaps?
There will be movement of ministers within the ministries. These are all at the, I don't want to say junior, but non-cabinet level.
Could you give some names, Mr. President?
Well, yes, I can give some names.
I'm hearing I'm hearing Minister Scott and Minister Brooms to be reassigned.
Minister Scott is he's now with the Ministry of Communities, but we need him over to look at some labor issues, particularly in the Ministry of Social Protection. Yes, that is one. Minister Brooms has tremendous energy and skill, and she is going to be functioning from the Ministry of Natural Resources. She has a very good knowledge of the hinterland, and we are concerned with the enforcement of certain practices and regulations in that ministry. And there's going to be the appointment of a new minister within the Ministry of Communities, that's Ms. Valerie Patterson. So there's one new minister and two movements of ministers within the ministries. So Ms. Valerie Patterson will be going to communities, Mr. Scott will be going to social protection, and Ms. Brooms will be going to natural resources.
What Ms. Patterson would be dealing with housing?
Ms. Patterson will be in the Ministry of Communities. The minister, the cabinet minister will determine the actual duties of the minister within the ministry.
The President, if I should take you back to your opening statement, you spoke about local government elections and building trust and so on. What is the coalition's position going into local government elections? How are you going to, what are some of the positions you're going to contest? There are rumors that perhaps you will just focus on the municipalities and leave the NDCs for the local residents and so on. What exactly is going to be the plan?
No, well, rumors could be misleading. We have resolved to go into the local government elections as a coalition. We feel that the coalition has, as the saying goes, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And we created a movement on the 11th of May, which was accepted by the general public, that this is the form of government that they want to see. So we will take that form into local government elections. So we wouldn't just keep it as a device for general and regional elections. We introduce it because we believe in inclusionary democracy. And if we believe in inclusionary democracy, it is a useful instrument for building inclusiveness at local level. So we will be going into the election, APNU plus AFC, we will be going into local government elections as a coalition.
I'm speaking specifically as to whether you will contest the municipalities alone and leave the NDCs for the residents, as some people have been making calls for.
No, we have not made that determination. We have not made that determination. What we have determined is that as far as possible, we'd allow the local residents to decide how they would like to contest the election. But generally, we will be contesting neighborhoods and municipalities as a coalition. That is our general position. But we are prepared to listen to the demands of communities, because that is what local government is all about. All politics is local.
Just one last thing on that, Mr. President. How do you reconcile the fact that there have been calls from labor, people in general, in the general public that government should really step back and just allow the local people to run um, these communities in the local government elections. And given you talking about building trust and wanting to see more focus on locals running their communities.
And I'm always suspicious of that expression, the general public, because I've never really met, a person who has conducted a survey who can really says he or she speaks for the general public. I mean, I would say that 207,000 Guyanese voted for the coalition 7 months ago. And that is not the feedback we got from our part of the public. So I don't know who that general is making those remarks. But what I would say is that the people have been consulted. And this is the response we've gotten from 6 political parties. And we have had consultations, and I would say that in keeping with the results of the elections, we represent a broad cross-section of Guyanese society. This is what the people want. And we are not behaving like a government. We are behaving like a political entity which is responsive to the views and the feelings of the public.
So in that context, if I may follow up from my colleague, I think when you and your party campaigned on the issue of local government previously, you spoke of giving people ownership of their communities. I think that's the road that he was leading down. And that is not, it doesn't seem like that is, what is being presented to them right now. So he was asking specifically if you're going to leave the NDCs for Auntie Joan and Uncle Prasad to vie for those positions.
Well, Nazima, with all respect, we are giving the people what they want. If the people want to go through the political parties, which they know and they trust, we allow them to do that. That is democracy.
What they doing?
Well, they can go on their own. We have not prevented or obstructed any person or any group to stand as an independent or to go on their own. We're not corralling people into the parties, but the majority of people who have been consulted within those 6 parties want us to participate in local government elections as a coalition. And we have entered our symbol, we have entered the electoral race as a coalition. People trust our parties. I am leader of the PNC. The PNC is 57 years old, 58 years old. And people trust the party. So I cannot prevent them from wanting to go into the elections as a political party. If they come to me and say they would like to go in as a civic group, I say, good, go ahead. But it's democratic to allow them to choose. Some people choose the party.
Sir, since May, one of the biggest threats to our sovereignty has been the issue with Venezuela and Suriname. At this point in time, could you say how optimistic you are that we can resolve these issues, and very soon, because it doesn't seem like time is, our friend?
Resolution of the controversy at this point in time is in the hands of the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. I have met Mr. Ban Ki-moon several times in 2015, and I'm personally very confident in his commitment to resolve this controversy in accordance with the Geneva Agreement and the powers which have been given to him under that agreement. I have written, as of today, the 31st of December, I actually wrote Mr. Ban Ki-moon endorsing the actions that he has taken so far in 2015 and calling for him to continue his engagement with the 2 parties, Caracas and Georgetown, during the new year. You asked me about my confidence, my optimism. I think you know that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela has just emerged from an electoral contest where Mr. Maduro's party did very badly. I hope, and hope is not always a good planning strategy, I hope that this does not delay our progress or deter us from making progress in the matter of resolution to the controversy. But we have made it clear to the Secretary General of the United Nations that at this point in time, although we would allow him to use whatever mechanisms are at his disposal on the Charter of the United Nations, we are interested in a juridical solution. And we feel that if Venezuela continues to delay, continues to fail to advance its views on the type of mechanism which should be applied, he should go ahead and apply or use his powers to seek a juridical solution to the problem. 50 years is too long. The Venezuelan aggression has affected our development. It has affected the will of international corporations to invest in Guyana. And I think it's time to bring that fear, that threat, that aggression to an end, and allow Guyana in its 50th year to develop without fear of Venezuelan threat or aggression.
Diplomacy aside, as Commander-in-Chief, we recently had a Titan issue with a helicopter. How do we plan to treat with incidents like this where they just show up out of nowhere and claim they're lost?
Diplomacy can never be put aside. We are pursuing a diplomatic course, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs has that matter in hand. But we have made a protest, we've called for an explanation.
And none has been forthcoming?
Well, I am not aware that any explanation has been forthcoming, but it's in the hands of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
So, President, on...
It could have been an aviation accident. As you know, that is an area of both countries, eastern Venezuela, western Guyana, where there are few navigation devices, or it could be deliberate. But we are aware of the danger of having incidents like that. Kaikan is on the border. And you know, along the Wenamo and the Cuyuni rivers, you know, sometimes there are border incidents.
Mr. President, just on the issue of diplomacy, you remember when you began your term, you spoke about Guyana pursuing economic diplomacy as part of its national development. It's been 7 months since you've been elected and formed the government. But we are still to see the appointment of ambassadors who would, you know, in sort of a grand way push this agenda. What is taking the government so long, and perhaps how soon can we see these appointments?
Well, we don't want to make any errors, and some recommendations have been made, some nominations have been made, and we have laid down criteria, and we are what I would call verifying. We are now in a process of verification. I myself had hoped that this could have been completed by today, the 31st of December, but it has taken a little longer. We're looking at some issues, not only the qualifications, but also citizenship and other requirements for establishing those missions. But the process is far advanced, and I would like to feel that during the month of January there should be some definitive statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The matter has not yet been brought to the Cabinet because of some of the issues that I mentioned, the issues of citizenship and qualification.
Is there, and I know you're in a coalition government, is there agreement from all the parties on this matter? And perhaps, do we reach the stage, have we reached the stage where the country these ambassadors would be assigned have been informed and are perhaps doing their own verification?
There is no requirement under the accord which has brought the APNU and AFC together for any form of sharing. It is an executive function, and we function through a cabinet. Of course, there are members of all the parties in the cabinet. And when nominations are ready, I will bring it to the cabinet. That's how the government works. So it is nothing unilateral, but it is not subject to an agreement by, you know, parties under the Cummings-Berger Accord, if that is what you mean. But naturally, we want to ensure that there's balance. We want to make sure there's competence. We want to make sure that the interests of the country would be put first, above party or other interests. That's most important at this point in time. So if we are to advance that thrust of economic diplomacy, we have to look for the best. And that's what's taking so long.
You mentioned infrastructural development being one of the big agenda item for next year. What can Guyanese look forward to? I know you've spoken about developing the hinterland airstrips, and perhaps the road to FM might be one of those projects, but what exactly the administration might have in mind?
Well, the type of infrastructure we speak about is middle to long term. That is, you don't suddenly get a highway from Linden to Lethem. We have had discussions with two foreign countries, two states. I would not like to disclose that, but obviously it's a question of financing. The will is there on our part, and we feel that those highways are important to hinterland development. We hope to reach agreement in 2016. We hope to expand infrastructure in other areas, particularly energy generation, with hydropower, wind farms, solar farms. We hope that we have safer aerodromes, safer bridges, particularly over the Demerara Harbor. Those people who live in West Bank, Demerara, will know how difficult it is to cross to Georgetown during rush hours. And of course, if anything were to go wrong with that bridge, it would cause a major economic problem for businesses on both sides. So we expect that plans will come to fruition in 2016, but don't expect to see a bridge materialize out of thin air. It will take a little longer.
Well, this week we'll have to wrap up with questions coming from Nazima Raghubir.
Sir, if I may, two questions, please. What are your prospects for expanding the country's economic base? We've heard talks about oil, but at this point in time, we seem to be still looking for rice markets, one. We're earning from gold and diamond, but it's also, there are calls, to limit mining in a lot of ways, environmental issues, and that aside. And sugar, the Commission of Inquiry recommendation, one of them seems to be privatizing Gaisuka and all of that. $82 billion in debt we're looking at. So at this point in time, you would have, 7 to 8 months in government, you would have a better understanding of where your government is going to chart a course.
We have a better understanding, and there have been moments of concern, but as the year ends, I would say that we are much more hopeful. There has been some little improvement in the performance of sugar, and we feel that the recommendations for privatization might be able to overcome some of the corporate problems which Gaisuka has been faced with, because we can have a large number of peasant farmers who can feed their canes into central factories, reducing inefficiencies and improving production. A lot of the problems affect field production. Sometimes the daily turnout is as low as 58 or 60%. We would like to see greater turnout, and maybe if it's in the hands of private producers, there'll be better turnout. Rice production is being maintained. We are searching for rice markets. Of course, it's largely in private hands, and we will support private search for markets. Gold and diamonds, we expect that there will be more favorable prices in 2016, and that is an important thing. But at the same time, we're looking for other sources of revenue. By removing the opportunities for fraud and tax evasion, by cutting down on contraband, we hope to increase our collections and bring more money into the consolidated fund, into the central treasury. We hope to prevent the hemorrhaging and the leakage of revenues into NISIL and other places, lottery funds and so on, from timber and from the mines, which had occurred under the previous administration. So we expect that there's going to be better revenue collection, fewer losses, and also better performance from the main pillars of the economy. So next year will be better. There were moments of concern, but next year I'm confident it will be better. We're looking also at the community level for, at the stimulation of cottage industries, the stimulation of what I call agro-processing among small groups and individuals in villages. We're looking to see if we could advance or we could replicate the example of LEN, LEN, which is at Linden, to see whether we can provide capital to other young entrepreneurs in other communities, because sometimes all they need is startup capital. So at the individual and local level, at the national level, we expect to see progress, and at the international level in terms of our markets, we feel that once the Foreign Service, the new ambassadors and high commissioners are in place, we'll be able to use those missions to sell our produce.
Are you for the privatization of Daisuku? And since we're on time,
yeah, our time is
on
gone.
a personal note, your New Year resolutions, if you can share those with us.
I am guided by the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry and the advice of our ministers. This is a matter that has gone through the Cabinet, that will come back to the Cabinet, has gone to the National Assembly. We were very careful not to rush ahead with any decision, and we will be advised by what comes out of our consultations. It is now in the National Assembly. It has been discussed with the Cabinet. Let us leave it there for the time being. I am in favor of a solution which does not have the country supporting an industry, the billions of dollars every year. In fact, it should be the other way around. The industry should be putting money into the common treasury. My New Year resolution is to ensure that we continue to increase the level of public confidence and public trust. That is most important to me. That public trust can move mountains. Public confidence can move mountains. Once people are sure that the government is on their side, they will come out to clean their communities, to clean up their cities, to invest, and to turn the economy around. On the other hand, there's a vicious cycle. If people are not confident in the government, they hoard their money, they migrate, they smuggle, they try to avoid taxes, they commit all sorts of offenses. So we are creating, and I'm confident this will happen in 2016, we created the virtuous cycle in which people who are confident in this country, after 50 years of independence, they see the roads being built, they see the cities being cleaned up, they see better health and education and sanitation, they feel more secure, I believe that this will do good for Guyana. So my resolution is to continue to build public trust, public confidence, and at the same time provide the resources for the country to move forward, to give Guyanese a good life.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you very much, Nazima, for stealing time. Viewers, this has been another edition of The Public Interest. Of course, as I said, the final edition for 2015. Thank you to both journalists, Nazima Raghubir and, of course, Nigel Williams, and as always, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, His Excellency, Brigadier David Granger. Join us again next time, and, of course, a very happy New Year to you, Guyana.